Hi, we're here again at Discount Water Softeners to talk to you about our Genesis 2 Premier Water Softener. Today we're going to cover the unboxing of the system as well as some of the programming and small installation connections on the control head. The Genesis 2 systems are 1.25" high efficiency upflow water softeners. They are the only Upflow 1.25" residential high flow water softeners available on the internet today. So we're going to get right to it and talk to you a little bit about the setup and all the components that are going to come with to help you with getting your system up and going. All right, so we're going to get right to it here. We have a control valve here. We also have the bypass with it and some small parts. So we'll start with the small parts. Critically important piece of the system is going to be the O-ring that connects to the bottom of the control head. Some lubricant to lubricate the O-rings, and then a compression nut and tube insert that will connect the brine hose from your brine tank to your control valve. Also included are going to be an upper screen that we'll show you later on how to connect to the bottom of the control valve, and then you'll have a white box that has your actual transformer plug in it. Bypass for your system here is what that looks like. We'll take that out of the box. And then also the most important part, your manual. This manual is going to give you information on how to connect your system to your plumbing as well as to the brine tank and to the drain. And then also information on the pink sheet about where to find videos such as the one you're watching right now, as well as some of the more basic requirements for your system. And then on the back side of the pink sheet, there'll be warranty information. So let's get right down to programming. Programming this system is very simple. We do a lot of the programming ahead of time for you. When you first plug it in, your system is actually going to show you the time of 12:12. Now this system's already been partially programmed before, so it goes right to the main screen. But to navigate around with this system, the button all the way on the left allows you to get into the programming area. Okay, you can enter in our company information if you'd like. We don't pre-program it in there, but you can do that if you'd like. Set time of day. You're going to arrow down, and once that's highlighted, you push this button, and it allows you to set hours. You can up arrow, down arrow. To confirm, you want to hit the button all the way on the left. That's confirming any setting changes that you make within here. So minutes, up, down, confirm with the button on the left, and then it'll take you back to the next setting. Same thing with the date, just arrow down. You want to set the date. Up, down, wherever you want it, confirm with the button on the left, month and year. Next setting, set total capacity. Setting total capacity is done by us at our facility before it leaves our facility. This should not be changed. You want to make sure your system is regenerating at the frequency that it is supposed to. By changing this to any other capacity other than what you purchased or received is going to cause your system to not regenerate at the right time. You're either going to get soft water or you're going to go through too much salt. So recommendation is you actually just skip right over this entire capacity setting. Water hardness. This is obviously probably the most critical setting within your system. It'll come set to you at 15 grains per gallon. If you're on municipal supplied water, you can actually contact your city or even look it up on their website. They should give it to you in either grains per gallon or parts per million. You would program that by up arrow, down arrow. If you're on a private well, it's important that you get a water test done of your hardness, as well as if you have any iron or think you have iron. When you program your water softener, if you do not have an iron filter, you want to compensate for your iron when you program your system. To do that, for every part per million of iron you have, you're going to add 5 grains per gallon in the program setting. So let's, for example, say you have a 15 grain per gallon hardness and you have 2 parts per million of iron, or let's say 1.5. So you're going to multiply 1.5 times 5, and you're going to come up with 7.5. So you're going to add to your grain hardness of 15, you're going to add 7.5. Well, there are no halves in this. So instead of going to 22.5, you're going to actually be set to a 23. All right, so that's going to change according to whatever your results are, but that's what that would be is if you had 15 plus 1.5 on iron. All right. Next setting would be number of people. This setting is for the actual number of people permanently living in the home. It's not for people that are going to come visit once a week or once a month or for a weekend or even a week. You want to keep this set for the number of people that are actually permanently living in your home. All right. Next setting is your regeneration time. Comes factory set at 2 a.m. like most water softeners, and that is an ideal time because that's least likely when you're going to be using water. If you have an off schedule where you could be using a good amount of water at that time, you obviously can set this to any time that you want, but you want it set to a time when you are least likely using water, because if you use water during your regeneration, it could affect the flow, and it'll also definitely affect whether you get soft water or not. During a regeneration, you will not receive soft water. All right, well, that's that. Backwash time is preset by the manufacturer. Brine draw time, that's the time that the system draws in the brine from the brine tank, that is also preset and should not be changed. Secondary backwash, if you're on a private well, this is important to have a secondary backwash if you have iron. Fast rinse, that's very important as well to get the excess brine out of the resin bed so you don't get salty water in your house. And finally, your brine refill time. This is also set by us for the size system that you have. It should definitely not be changed. The only time you should change this is if you consult us first, because you have some circumstance where you have very high levels of other impurities in your water, but that would be something that we would need to discuss and adjust accordingly. All right. Max days for regeneration, we set to 14 days. So if you don't reach your allotted gallons by the 14th day, your system is going to regenerate as a backup anyway. This is important on private wells to make sure you don't get bacterial growth in there. It's also important just because salt can fall off of resin over time and you'll actually get hardness sneaking through. So beyond that, the only thing you really have are usage logs. So your daily water usage, your peak usage for your days, weeks, and even months. So you can actually look in there if you want and kind of track your usage. Software version as well is in there. So none of those need to be changed. So when you get back to your main screen here, you're going to see the in-service, you're going to see the time of day, remaining gallons until it's going to regenerate next, and then also the regeneration time and the current flow rate. So this will register when you run your water, your cold water in your house. It'll actually register gallons, and it also shows you your regeneration time. So we're actually going to unplug this now. If you unplug it, all your settings are going to hold. Your time of day will actually stay on there for, I believe, up to 72 hours without power. If it's anything more than that, you'll have to reprogram your time of day. But all of the other settings we just discussed, our non-volatile memory will not be lost if you lost power or unplugged it for a year. All right, so we're going to unplug that now because I want to show you a couple of quick important things with the control valve and how the system needs to go before the valve is installed on top of your tank. In the small parts bag that we showed you earlier, you have an O-ring, you'll have a package of lubricant for O-rings, and then you will also receive a compression nut and tube insert for your brine line. So because the O-ring is right here, you're going to want to lubricate this with the lube provided, and you just need a soft coating all the way around. And this is going to go in the channel on the bottom side of the control head. All right. This is critically important to be put in place and properly in that channel prior to installing on your tank to prevent it from leaking. All right. The other component that's going to be installed in here is your upper screen. Now, your upper screen is going to clip in place on the underside of the control head. This will prevent any resin from getting up into the control head. And to do that, it will sit in a channel, and once it's in that channel, you'll need to twist it and it will click into place. So if you hear that, it actually clicks into place. So that's solid on there. So that will actually allow the system to be protected from getting any resin up in the control head. So I'm just going to take that off for now. You can also lubricate the O-ring inside of here before you put this cone on to make it easier for the riser tube to slide in place. This is your riser tube. It's going to be tapered, but you're actually going to, with the control head screen on there, when you go to put it down on the tank, it's going to slide up in there and then go in a little bit further into the actual bottom side of the control head. But this riser tube will already be in your tank. I'm just using this to show you that's how it assembles. But your tank is already going to have your 1.25-inch riser installed in it, and all you'll have to do is slide the head over it. All right. The next thing we're going to look at here is your brine line connection. Your brine line is the 3/8-inch smaller tube that runs from the salt tank to the control valve. And to make this connection, you're going to take your compression nut, slide it over the tube, and then you're going to have your tube insert with integrated screen slide into the tubing. And what that's going to do is it's going to help keep the system tubing from collapsing over time. And what you're going to want to do is push that in as far as it goes and then tighten your nut down onto there. Okay, you may have to get a wrench and hold that so that it's nice and tight, but if you pull on this tube, it is not going to come out if it's installed properly. The other thing is going to be your drain tubing. All of the systems that we sell on our website have the option to get drain tubing with it at different lengths for different costs. What's really important about your drain tubing is that it's a stiff wall tubing. So this is a poly tubing. It's a polyethylene tubing that has stiff wall. It's very rigid and doesn't collapse. Vinyl tubing should never be used for the drain tubing because it collapses over time and will actually cause the system to not drain properly or rinse properly, and you're going to have issues with it. So to install this, it is a hose barb connection, and it is a good idea, just as a precautionary, is to put a hose clamp on here. We do not provide one, but if you're going to get this installed, it may be a good idea to get a hose clamp to install on there. Okay, so those are your connections to your drain and to your brine line. The other thing I want to show you in this installation is your bypass. Your bypass has an integrated meter in it so that you can count your gallons and your system will actually regenerate. So it's important to have the meter wire installed when you do this. So I'm just going to turn this to the side again. All right. And I'm actually going to take these two things off so you have a better view of it. This can actually be removed real easily. All right, this is your meter cable. All right, it's coming out of the back of your control head. You only have two wires coming out of the back of your control head. One is the power cord, the other one is your meter cable. So when we open up the bypass box, you're gonna have a couple of clips and a couple of elbows that are loose. These are your 3/4-inch elbows. So if you have 3/4-inch plumbing, you're gonna utilize those. The other thing is going to be your bypass. So your bypass, get the other clip here. Your bypass looks like this, and it's a very simple bypass, okay? It's going to clip into the back of the control head with these two clips right here, and your meter cable is going to plug in here because your meter is actually inside of the outlet side of the softener. So to operate the bypass, it's very simple 90-degree turn that opens and closes. So your water comes in on the right and goes out on the left. It's going through the bypass now. And if you open it up, you'll see the arrows point to the control head and away from the control head. That means that your system is open to service. So to connect it to your system, you're going to remove these two clips and push your bypass onto there and then install the clips. There are arrows also on this bypass showing your supply and your return. So your return's on the left, your supply is on the right going in. So if you were standing in front of the system, your supply is on the right and your return is on the left. Here's your meter cable. It's flat on one side and rounded on the other. You're gonna just slide it in until it clicks. All right, and now you'll be able to read the gallons coming into the water softener so you know when it's going to regenerate. Your only other thing to look at here is whether you want to use your 1-inch or your 3/4 inch connections on your bypass. It comes with the 1-inch already attached, but if you want to install the 3/4 inch, you can just slide that in. These clips actually go in through the side. All right, so you can clip those in and they will actually keep that part in there. And that system is ready to be installed on top of your tank and make your connection to your plumbing. All right, thank you for watching. If you have any additional questions, please email us at support@discountwatersofteners.com. You can always call us, 847-462-9000, and someone will be glad to help. Thanks again for watching, and we will provide you another video showing your connections to your brine tank and your resin tank. Thanks.